Hi, Smart Home Sunday. Here I'm again, tinkering with Home Assistant, doing API calls to Philips Hue. If you're into that kind of thing, press the subscribe button. Now, last week, I did get the API commands being sent from Home Assistant to the Philips Hue hub. And I was controlling that light up there behind me. So it's this one, that one, right? I've got control here. Now, last week, I had a setup that looked a little bit like this. So here's the code I put in place in my configuration YAML. Go back and check last week's video if you want more detail on this, but I'll give you the overview. So here you see I have one command to say office light bright. So send these variables, the scene, call that scene with this transition time, and that makes the light bright. Then the second set here is, as it says, it turns it onto this energize. It's calling another scene. And again, transition time, in this example, 5 seconds. Now, I realized that one thing you might remember seeing, and I also remembered way back in the past, is this little diagram here. Now, this is me trying to build a lighting automation setup in the house. And I have my times, I have my scenes that I want to transition through all through the day. And energize, concentrate, read, relax, dimmed, night light. Right, great. But I actually then need to set up in Home Assistant quite many of these. So not just the 6 here, but it's actually 6 for that group of lights, and then elsewhere for another group of lights, and another group of lights, and so on and so on. So what I realized is that the config file is going to get rather large, and that's when I realized Home Assistant with with the RESTful API, you can use a template. What does that mean? Well, the easiest way for me to think about it is I can, from my Home Assistant automation, send a command to the RESTful API integration and send some variables. Aha! Let me show you what it now looks like. So, instead of creating all of those separate commands, just calling a different scene, I realized I can create a dynamic command. And I just create some variables. So in the URL, I have here a group ID. So that means my Philips Hue hub has many groups in it, so groups of lights that usually coincide with maybe a room or a zone. And each of them is a number. Now you're with me. And also, I realized that why call a scene? I could just call the color temperature. I'm going to do one API call anyway for transition time. So why not just send the color temperature there and send the brightness across and then the transition time. So that's what I've done. I've called it turn time here. So brightness value and the myred value. Now these are just names, variable names. Are you with me? All right, let's see if I can show you now in Home Assistant what I have done to bring this all a little bit more sense. So let's go and have a look at my configuration YAML. So I've got those other 2 commands in there still, so the office light bright and office light energize, but here's the cool one. Here's the one, the dynamic command. Now in here I have the variables in place. So group ID, myred value, brightness value, and turn time. That's what I need to provide. Now, how cool is this? I go down to configuration. I go into automations. Here we go. I've already created 3 here. But let's go in and edit one. I'll show you what it looks like. So this is called create energize. I'm saying create energize because I'm not calling the scene energize anymore. I am waiting for a particular time, whatever time I want, looking for conditions. In this case, I'm looking for that light to be in an on state. And then the action, well, I'm calling the service called dynamic command. That's the one I showed you just before. And here are the variables I'm sending. So it is group 15, those lights up there. And I'm sending it a myred value 156, brightness 254, and a turn time of 50. Now let's bring it down to 10. Save that. Now, jump out, create energize. We can run it right now. Very good. Now let's see. Let's go and have a look at create dimmed. Okay, so you get the idea now. All I need to do is go down to the variables here, and the group is the same group of lights. What color temperature do I want? What brightness do I want? And then what's the turn time? So again, I'll change this to 1 second, and we'll leave the value there. So create dimmed. Now let's run it. Now that exact same create dimmed, let's set it to brightness value 254. So it's not really going to be dimmed now, but I just want to show you by changing the payload data, I am actually able to tell the light what I want to do. So create dimmed, but it's actually going to go bright. Are you with me? Do you now understand what I'm doing here? So now in Home Assistant, what I can actually do is I can create all of these quite easily. I don't need to create the scenes in the hub. I can just call that exact same command in my configuration YAML, and I just need to set the parameters. Now what I did do also is a little bit of tinkering in the API debug tool. Do you remember that one? Okay, so what you can actually do is you can have a look at the scenes in your hub. And if I go and have a look at a scene, let's find one. Okay, here's relax. There it is. So there's the ID. Now I'll go up to the URL. I put another slash here, and I look for that scene name or the ID. Now get that information. Now what this is now telling me is in my Philips Hue hub, that's where this data is coming from, the Philips Hue hub, and I can see here that the scene called relax in the Philips Hue hub has a brightness of 144 and a color temperature, a myriad value of 447. Okay, so relax. Let's go over here and let's now go and edit one of them, doesn't really matter. Now we go up here and duplicate the automation, and I have now rename this create relax. I can set the time later, don't worry about that. The bit I really want to get excited about is down here. So same light groups. Now the values were 447 for the color temperature, so 447, and the brightness was 144. So brightness 144. Let's change the time to 1 second and save. Now I have created relax. It's never been triggered before. Are you ready to relax? Well, let's be quite dramatic. Let's go to energize for a moment. There's energize. And now the one we just created, relax. Very good. So now what it means is, let's just bring a bit of light here again. So what it means, this one's transitioning over 5 seconds because that was set up that way. So what this means is that in Home Assistant, I can just create all of these automations that call the one RESTful API set up in the configuration YAML. And now I can just create these for each of the groups in the house and trigger it on different timings, and very, very happy. Okay, I think that's it. That's enough for now. There's probably enough detail. Let that sink in, as I will also. And we'll come back here next week and let's have a look at the massive list of home automations that I have in place with Home Assistant. If you enjoyed this and you want to learn more about Home Assistant and the Philips Hue API integration, well, subscribe, and I will see you next week for another Smart Home Sunday. Bye for now.